This episode was funded by our Patreon backers. Without their generous support, this episode could not have been made. Please consider becoming one of our patrons today. I should have come here a long time ago. But as with so many other noble and worthy destinations, Athens found itself on my long list of cities called Someday. But here we are, long overdue, in the birthplace of classical Greece and, one might argue, of Western civilization. And while the Greece of yesterday is undeniably fascinating, I am here for the Athens of today.
For years, Athens had a reputation as nothing more than a grimy layover hub, a necessary evil to be endured on your way to the idyls of Santorini or Kefalonia. And for years, that reputation was deserved. Decades of chronic underinvestment followed by crushing economic collapse brought this city and this country to its knees. But in recent years, something rather wonderful has happened, a renaissance of sorts. The grime is transformed largely into a charming patina, and the graffiti is more art than anarchy. If you give Athens the time, the payoff is huge.
Athens Airport lies 17 miles to the east of the city. The airport is relatively new, and be thankful for that, because when it opened in 2001, it was greeted with headlines celebrating the lack of stray dogs that infested the old airport. It was that bad. Now it is a clean, compact, and efficient airport. The metro will get you into Athens city center in about 40 minutes from a station just outside the airport. The journey will cost you 10 euros, which is disproportionately high compared to the usual metro fares, but the journey is easy and the ticket includes transit to your final destination. You can also take a taxi from just outside the terminal. The journey will cost 38 euros during the day, 5 a.m. to midnight, and 54 euros between midnight and 5 a.m. This is a fixed fare, so make sure you confirm that with the driver before you start your journey.
25 years ago, this city was a nightmare to get around. A neglected metro system that hadn't been expanded in over 100 years led to a city choked by traffic. But with the prospect of the Olympics returning to its home in 2004, the city was spurred into action. A huge expansion of the metro system, plus the introduction of tram and suburban railways, went a long way to alleviating the horrendous traffic. Let's be clear that the traffic is still awful, but it's less awful than it was, so getting around the city is much easier than it used to be. Besides the obvious benefits of a newly revitalized public transportation system, modern infrastructure, better reliability, that kind of thing, you also have component parts that have grown up together, so you get the holy grail of public transport: integration. The €1.20 regular standard ticket that you get out of any ticket kiosk on any form of transport means unlimited travel on buses, trams, trains, metro, anywhere in Athens except to the airport for 90 minutes.
You can also get a €4.50 ticket valid for 24 hours, a €9 weekly ticket, or a €22 tourist ticket, which is valid for 3 days and includes one metro ride to the airport and one from the airport, something your 90-minute daily and weekly tickets don't allow. You must validate your ticket before you begin your journey on any form of transport. You can do that as you pass through the turnstiles or on one of the dedicated validation machines. Despite what I said about the gnarly traffic, in some cases a taxi is a decent bet to get from A to B. Yellow taxis can be found all over Athens and can be hailed on the street the old-fashioned way or via a plethora of apps.
Like this one, Beat, by far the most popular taxi app in the country. Now, you'll pay the same as you would hailing a taxi off the street, but with the app, you will get a preview of the fare beforehand. And in the cash-phobic world we find ourselves living in now, the great thing about using the app is that you can pay through it as well. Finally, and I know you all tire of hearing me say this, but it's a hill I will absolutely die on, the best way to experience a city is to walk its streets. And fortunately for you and me, Athens is a great city to do that in. Many of the major roads have been pedestrianized and all the major monuments have been linked with a pedestrian route. Yes, the roads can sometimes be a little bit of an adventure to cross, but it's the same in New York, Paris, Mumbai, and Shanghai. You'll be fine.
I am like the mayor of Athens around here. You will notice, really.
Aside from being the culinary mayor of Athens, Carolina Doridi is an accomplished chef and the bureau chief for Culinary Backstreet's food tours, so I can think of no better person to guide us through the Athens gastronomic goodness.
This place is one of the most famous places in Athens for this type of bread, koulouri.
Koulouri, a Greek staple and a delicious one at that.
It's like our bagel.
And just like the hallowed bagel, this delicacy has a lot of variety.
That's the classic version. That's the crispy one, sunflower seeds. This is topped with cheese. This is stuffed with feta. This has raisins. These are braided.
But if you ask me, original is always best.
So these are very popular, have been popular for centuries. Εντάξει και τέλεια. This is Mr. Elias, is the owner, baking non-stop.
And that's no exaggeration. The team here have been baking 24 hours a day for generations to keep the good people of Athens plied with delicious koulouri.
Back in the generation of my grandparents, traditional Greek breakfast was not a big thing. You know, it was something very simple, a cup of coffee or tea, and maybe a koulouri or maybe a cookie. And then they had something in between, around 10 o'clock.
Meals in between meals, you say? I love this city already. Time for a post-breakfast breakfast, a traditional Greek pie. That's right, in Athens, pie is breakfast food, and you can only respect that. And your best bet is to visit Harry's Kitchen and see husband and wife team Harris and Iouli Sataridis.
The cheese pie is with 3 cheeses, feta, and thotiro, which is like ricotta, and graviera from Crete, which is like a mild pecorino. And this one is vegan. It's got onions and balsamic vinegar and thyme.
Oh, wow.
But because they cook everything with fresh ingredients, it makes a huge difference. You know, I mean, you can tell.
Yeah.
Try
so
this one.
All right.
I still think about that pie. I'm not even kidding.
I would eat these every day.
Yeah. People do it this every day. I think these are the most charming little streets of Athens.
Yeah, they're wonderful. I mean, you never would know till even look in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tiny.
Yeah.
You lose it.
Blink and you miss it. Yeah.
As Carolina leads us through the streets of Athens, it becomes clear this city is full of hidden gems. Little local treasures worth the hunt. And our next stop was no exception. The bustling municipal market with its treasures of sea and land has a few tavern-shaped tricks up its sleeve, including Greek Meze culture, which we discuss over a glass of sipuru and a couple of beers.
When you visit a traditional tsipouradico, you go to the tsipouradico and you only get a menu with the drinks. Each person gets a tiny little bottle, which is basically 1 round. And they bring you 1 small plate, only 1 small plate, and they put it in the center of the table to share. When the plate is empty and your drink is empty, the second plate arrives. But you don't order, they bring. There is a philosophy in the order, like they have to start with, because this has an intense flavor, you know, it's strong, so it kills your taste buds.
Okay.
So what happens is that they need to bring you first flavors that are strong. Spicy, salty, smoky, to recover your taste buds. And then the more you go, the more rounds you do, the milder the flavors become. So you may end your meal with a grilled fish or a grilled shrimp.
They're so far ahead of us.
And these are some seriously strong flavors. Raw, marinated in vinegar and salt with a dash of red pepper, I've never had mussels like this before in my life.
That is not what I expected it to taste like. That's delicious.
Every plate packs a punch, from marinated anchovies
So good.
to a unique combination dreamt up by Carolina herself.
Whenever I come here, I get the trout and I always get sausage.
It's an unusual combination.
It's
Pork and trout.
amazing. It works with a drink.
And as is customary after a drink, or two, let's say two, we cap things off with souvlaki, and pork souvlaki at that. It might come as a surprise that in Greece, lamb souvlaki, or lamb anything really, isn't much of a thing. The more you know. Grilled over oak charcoal sourced from Mount Athos and served with onions, tomato, and parsley. And no sauce.
Because that way the pita doesn't get soggy, that you can feel the meat and the charcoal flavor on it.
Oh, that's so good.
And after that campaign, the mayor of Athens definitely gets my vote. Yamas.
Greece is part of Europe and uses the euro as its currency, which keeps things nice and simple. Cash and card are widely accepted, so you won't have any problems there either. Athens as a city is incredibly cheap compared to many of its fellow European capitals. I've been amazed how affordable great food and drink is in the city as long as you step away from the touristy areas. And on that note, let's do the rundown. A cup of coffee will cost you around €2.30. A pint of beautiful Greek beer will cost you anywhere from 2 to 5 euros, so choose wisely.
And for the most reliable indicator of a nation's cost, the good old Big Mac, it's pretty difficult to find in Athens. There's just 2 McDonald's in the whole city. But if you're really jonesing, it'll cost you around €3.30. But there's better grilled meat options in Athens.
Tipping. As my friend and local Athenian Sophie told me, tipping is a thing here. But like many European cities, it's appreciated but not expected. So rounding up to the nearest euro in a taxi or adding 10% to a meal you've really enjoyed will go a long way. When I asked Greek friends about safety in Athens, the most consistent answer I got was, it's complicated. Generally, yes, it's a safe city with the usual caveats that accompany a major city. Watch your bags in your pockets on public transport, don't fall for the usual scams, that kind of thing. But what is reasonably unique about Athens is the nocturnal transformation that small pockets of the city seem to undergo. Areas that are bustling with tourists and commuters during the day become shadowy and volatile environments after the sun has gone down if you stray too far away from the main thoroughfares. But let's be real. Show me a major urban center that doesn't experience something similar. So I offer that information with a healthy dose of circumspection. If you're comfortable in big city environments, there is nothing here that's going to push you out of your comfort zone.
Here's another Athenian paradox. Areas that felt seedy and rough during the day transformed into vibrant, welcoming enclaves of food, music, and art as soon as the sun went down, many of which we returned to night after night. Moreover, areas that hotel staff and tourism guides described as akin to Bogota in the 1980s were some of our favorite parts of Athens. Yet, areas that were fortified by huge international hotel chains were in avenues littered with used needles and brothels. A potent reminder not to take anything at face value in Athens. As we wandered the streets of Athens one morning, Greg belched out one of his trademark nuggets of pithiness. He said, "It's not surprising that the cradle of modern civilization resembles so many different cities." And he's right. Walk around like we did and you get hints of Mexico City, Mumbai, Hong Kong, and Beirut, all within a few hundred yards of each other. I don't really know what I was imagining when I imagined Athens, but it certainly wasn't anything like what I found. Is it rough around the edges? Absolutely. Is it busy as hell? Yep. Is it full of character and noise and flavor? More than I could possibly have imagined.